Sorry.
Hey, go, Mom.
Hi, everyone. This is God Talk. It's September 25th, and we are talking. Okay, thank you, Marco. A little easy, please. Racial equity principles. So this is part of kind of an ongoing discussion about racism. We've been talking about white supremacy culture, and we're going to do that a little bit more tonight because I don't think I did a good enough explanation before we really kind of got into it. So that's our plan for tonight. Hi, Suzette. And so we'll get started like we always do, just real quickly with the name you want to be called tonight, your pronouns, and the answer to the icebreaker question, which Jared or Leo is about to give us.
Okay, Giggle. You.
Hey, everyone. Hi, my name is Jared. My pronouns are he, she, they, them, all of the above. Any pronoun is fine. And the icebreaker question for today is for you, what's the best sound in the world? Me, I would have to say it is the sound of a cat/kitten purring. It is so cute. So cute.
Hi, everybody. My name is Leo. Pronouns he, him. I would have to say, I don't know if it's the best sound, but I like wind chimes.
Oh, yeah. You could be sitting for the wind chimes. And Carol/Marco.
Okay. Marco, you want to go first?
Oh, you got to Giggle.
Okay, I'm Carol, she, her, and when you first said that, I thought of like just the sound of rain, but I don't know. I'm also just thinking of musical sounds. I have this one little soundscape thing where you can add in like rain and chimes and the sound of a crackling fire and everything all at once. And I put a little music in there, like harp type music or something like that. And it's nice and relaxing.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everybody. Michael.
Marco?
King Michael. I got King Michael.
I like King Marco. Okay. And your pronouns are?
Him.
And what's your favorite sound?
I might get going. I go like a guy can you, but
You don't like fire drills, but you like the sound of an alarm?
yeah.
Okay. Interesting. All right, Lynn.
Okay, I'm Lynn, she, her. And man, that's a good question. My first thought was that the sound of silence is my best, but then that's not really a sound. So I think I'm a longtime jazz listener, and I think the sound I love the most is the xylophone. There's a jazz group called the Modern Jazz Quartet, and they play a xylophone, and I just love the sound of the xylophone.
Nice. Okay, George.
My name's George, and I like to go by George. And I don't care about the pronouns because I've been called everything. And when I get called out and I say the wrong pronoun to someone, they get mad at me. So I don't care about the pronouns. Okay. So I like to be just George. And there are so many sounds in the world, but lately I have a little bird buddy. And I don't know if you know what a bird buddy is, but it's where you put food out and it takes the little birds and they perch on the little thing and they eat the food. And the camera takes a picture of them and it also has sounds. And so I've noticed that I love the little bird buddies when the little birds get up there and they start chirping. And then maybe two of them get up there and they start chirping to each other. And to me, that means they're happy because they're eating food and they're with people. And so it's a happy chirp chirp.
Nice. Gregor?
Take it, mama.
Gregor, pronouns are he, they. I've only been married for 9.5 years, and so my favorite sound is when my husband says good morning to me, because that means we both made it through that. And at my age, you don't take that for granted.
Beautiful, Gregor. Okay, Suzette.
I'm Suzette, she, her, and my absolute favorite sound in the world is the voice of my grandson, Cash.
Oh,
Yay, and congratulations on his
Bar none.
baptism.
Bar none. I love that boy.
Congratulations
He's
on
going to be here in a minute, so I'm going to have to meet.
lovely. Lovely. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get started. So last week we were talking some about white supremacy culture. We've discussed over the last month racism in general, and then we've talked about it in specifically, like within this group, and we've talked about it in the church. And this is not like a board meeting or anything like that. We're here. But we can certainly talk about specifics if we need to. But what I kind of want to do is just set a foundation. I want to talk about a foundational understanding. So last week we were talking about white supremacy culture, and I'm not sure if we really made it clear kind of what that is. And I think sometimes when if we just say that title, it makes it sound like we're talking about this is what white supremacists do, or this is how white supremacists are. And that's not real. That's not what we're talking about at all. We're talking about the water that we all swim in. And this is the culture that was basically created at the creation of our nation. This is all to do with like just how our history happened with a few people coming over. People didn't identify as white back then when they were first coming to this country. They were, identified by their nations of origin or their religions, Dutch, Italian, whatever, Protestant, Quaker, Catholic, however they identified. But then, as in order to create the kind of culture in which you could steal land from indigenous people and kidnap people from Africa and bring them over to work for you, you have to create the smaller group, the minority group, the ruling elite had to find reasons to coalesce and create power structures where I mean, you just can't do that to other people without dehumanizing them. And so that's kind of how it all started. That's the history. And fast forward to today, a lot of those things are just enmeshed in our systems. And and it's just a culture, a hegemony of conquering, of having power over, and it's a culture of dividing. What it serves to do is divide um, white people from people of color, white people from white people of color from other people of color, and people from the land, people from the animals, people from just this kind of the spirits of the earth. And so that's why we're talking about white supremacy culture. The good thing about something that is a constructed ideal, or not ideal, that's not the right word, a constructed idea, is that it can be deconstructed. And that's where the racial equity principles come in. That is all this work, the characteristics of both the white supremacy culture and the racial equity principles have been put together by collaborations. Particularly the racial equity principles I got from a group called Dismantling Racism Works. And these are decades of people that have worked for racial justice and tried to tried to find ways that we could deconstruct and reconstruct a better way. And so this is not something we can do overnight. But this is something that it's excellent to talk about and work together on. Hi, Cash. So I'm sure some of you have some other ideas or questions about that. So so I don't see anybody's hand raised yet. So let's talk just a little bit about some of the specifics. What we talked a little bit last week about power hoarding. And I also want to say that white supremacy culture is, I mean, we're all affected by it. We're affected in different ways, but we're all affected by it. And power hoarding, one of the things that I think can trip us up sometimes is if maybe we have a person of color who is kind of in a position of power, then we're thinking, oh, maybe we're safe from white supremacy culture, and that doesn't that's not the case. But if you're seeing power hoarding, then white supremacy culture is at work. Does that make sense? Okay. What about perfectionism? That's one that I think some people can, they're like, well, that's just how I am, or that's just, isn't it good to strive for perfection all the time? But then, who decides what's perfect? Okay, Jared.
So like I love this because it's like when you're talking about racism and specifically white supremacy, you're actually talking about all the isms, right? You're talking about ableism. You're talking about like every ism that exists. You're talking about homophobia, right? You're talking about heterophobia. You're talking about like heterosexism, where we fetishize people who look a specific way, right, and perform gender a specific way, because white supremacy does have a principle of perfectionism, where if everything doesn't fit in that box, right, then it is inferior. And like I experienced a lot of that from identifications with both sides of my minority statuses, right? As for instance, an African American, like I obviously there's a lot of discrimination that I received, right? That's just both systemic, friend groups, etc., right? But I'm also half Asian, right? And so in some of those same friend groups, right, there was this model minority idea where, oh, you're not that kind of Black person, right? You're different, right? Because it's the other one cancels out that one, right? It's like you had an X on you, and then you removed it by being Asian, and that's not the case at all, right? And in that way, I kind of have for me, the lived experience of both model minority and also like person of discrimination. And so like it's been like really, really and from my lived experience, both suck, Like, like both are really, really bad, and both are a unique form of dehumanization. Where it's like it really doesn't matter what you do, whether you're striving super hard or you are failing. You are expected to strive harder, or you're expected to fail, right? Harder than you even do. And white supremacy works in that we, just like in the same way that cults do, at least in my experience, because I bought in to it, just like people buy into cults, where it's like, I do have to try really hard in order to be considered valid, right? And also I can't fail, because then, you know, I will fail twice as hard, you know, because I'm a person of color. I'm still Black, right? You know, like that. And all of that, you know, like brought me to conceal my sexuality, right? Talk the way I talk right now, right? You know, bereft of any sort of culture that is Black, right? Or even Filipino, right? Like my mother didn't teach me my native language, probably for that reason, right? And in a lot of,
or even being gay,
or yeah, and even like flamboyancy. Any like my husband even said it. Like,
you know, when I first met Jared,
yeah,
when I first met Jared, his clothing was black, brown, white, right? That was the only colors that he had.
oh, and a little blue,
Yeah, and a little blue.
which is
but,
it's a socially acceptable color, yeah.
but then it was beautiful seeing him come out of his shell, and then he started wearing all these different colors, and I'm like, this is the true Jared. Like, this is the real Jared.
Yeah,
and it was beautiful.
Right. And white supremacy is internalized, because like I had to hold back so much of myself just to fit in those boxes. And so during that time, I had to oppress people of color, people that were gay, people that were whatever, right? So, you know, just like what you said, you know, being a person in a Black face in a high place, right, doesn't extinguish the harms that supremacy culture can cause us to buy into. There are still gay Republicans. There are still Black Republicans. There are still, you know, like actual like homophobes that exist within the like gay community, right? Like it's a thing.
Well, did y'all see that grinder went down at the at Kurt's funeral celebration or whatever? They said that grinder had gone down, and for those that don't know what grinder is, it's like a hooking up app for the LGBTQ community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
So
that happens every Republican convention as well. And you know, like no, literally, like statistically,
Yeah.
you know, like that's not a joke. That's like a statement of fact. And so it's internalized amongst minorities as well. It's something that we all have to deconstruct, right? Or else we risk doing inordinate harm.
Lynn?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so Jared mentioned something that brought it back home to me, because I remember told as a youngster, as a teenager, that I had to study twice as hard, I had to work twice as hard, I had, you know, because I was Black, I had to do more. I had to work harder. I had to study harder. I had to make better grades, because otherwise I was be looked down on as somebody who didn't measure up. And I remember that very plainly, you know, at school. And I think, you know, having gone to segregated schools in fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth and ninth grades. all Black students, all Black teachers. And it was different because when I got to, when integration was forced, and which was when I was in the 10th grade, those teachers, the mixed race teachers were different than what I had experienced in the segregated school. Because in the segregated school, the teachers were, you will learn this. There's absolutely no failure. Failure is not an option. If you make a bad grade, if you don't do the work right, you'll do it again until you get it right. It was a very different environment. And I'm talking about public school, and I remember as a youngster being driven to make good grades, to make A's, and even when I started work, my job, I got to work harder, because if I let up, then I'm going to be seen as a slacker, and I can't be seen as a slacker, and that is all related to the color of my skin, not my abilities or my skill or my knowledge or what I don't know, or how I what I haven't been exposed to, but I got to do it, and there can be no exception. The other thing that came to me is Aldous Huxley, a philosopher and writer, said, the deepest sin against the human mind is to believe things without evidence. And I think at the heart of racism are white people who have put out these stereotypes, first about Blacks, maybe about indigenous people, maybe about Asian, and people believe them. So, Black people are lazy and shiftless, and Black people are, they don't have any culture. They have no home training, and that is simply, people believe that because somebody said it, not because they have any evidence. They never met a Black person, this is back in my day, because the races were segregated. I grew up in a segregated society. And so whatever was said about Black people, if white people believed it, then that was it. That became the stereotype. And so it all started there. Now, it's a different world today, but I think people still believe things about people, like they believe about, trans people and about gay people and about, everybody, because somebody said it. Charlie Kirk, rest his soul, was said to have said some ugly things about Black people and the intelligence of Black women. Just, the things that I read and see. And I have no doubt that he was a Christian and a great family man and didn't deserve to be assassinated. Absolutely true. On the other hand, neither did John F. Kennedy or Martin Luther King or Malcolm X or, political assassinations are not new to this country. The whole idea, and I'm not making light of the man's assassination, it's definitely an assassination, but for the Christian community to hold him up as a martyr, and as this image of what was good and great in Christianity is just gives me pause.
Thank you, Lynn. I went to a colloquium today from my seminary. My seminary's been good about this, but it was titled "How the Black Church Resists White Christian Nationalism." And it was really good, and hopefully they'll supply a recording that I can share with anybody that's interested. They also talked about worship styles, particularly. Yes, Jared, for sure. And they one of the questions was, should white people start attending black churches? And the answer was, it's always worth a try, basically. But and the speaker, who is a black, he's not a he's not like a senior pastor, but in a leadership role in a seminary. And he talked about his experience of going to a Hungarian immigrant church, and to honor one of his friends that he was going to school with. And it was a different language, different everything. And just how one of the quote church mothers, that's how he described it, just said, "Hey, come here, sit by me." And it made me think of Jared and Leo welcoming people into our church. And anyway, but his point was getting out of our comfort zone and trying to make connections, not just superficially check it out. Marco, I see we're getting there. Um, the point is to make connections across racial lines, across things that make us uncomfortable. And I think there's a lot of value in that. And I think that goes along with the racial equity principles, including taking risks and also learn from mistakes. Suzette?
Yeah.
Thank you. So I had my hand up since Jared was talking about Republicans can be black, Republicans can be gay, Republicans can be this, so there's a shocking person that I see on TV. So I don't watch TV while I'm working, but I have it on, sometimes on silent. But I don't know if you've seen this guy, Wesley Hunt. Okay. He confuses the hell out of me because he's like, I'm a pro-Trump, I believe I'm hardcore Trump believer, and he's married to a white woman and he's got mixed kids, and you know he confuses me because it feels like he has disenfranchised his race with what he does on TV. I don't understand him at all, but it seems like he's an overachiever because he went to West Point and he was an Army Apache helicopter pilot, and he served in Iraq, and he's got an MBA. I mean, the guy's an overachiever for sure, but he's somehow got indoctrinated into that political climate by where he was in these positions in his education. And I would really love to meet his parents. I would love to see where he grew up and what that was like, in order to judge him as a person, because I feel like he's like overcompensating. He's overcompensating in every possible way. Like, look, I've done all this white stuff. You gotta recognize me and vote for me because I'm holding the white flag. Anyway, he still disturbs me. I don't understand him. I just would like to see him speak from the standpoint of, not like political speak, but like something about what is important in his agenda that affects people, that kind of thing. So I just can't imagine. I just can't imagine the bedroom talk and all the stuff that happens in his
Oh,
world. It's got to be rough. It's got to be really, really something. But anyway, I'm keeping an eye on that guy.
oh yeah, that's a terrible image of MAGA bedroom talk. Oh God, I don't even want to go there. Oh my. But I think you're bringing up a lot of principles, and so I think that's exactly what we were saying about how white supremacy culture, it can infiltrate all of us. And I think you brought up several of those principles that we have listed, which are listed in the chat, by the way, like perfectionism, like quantity over quantity. Marco, I'll get to everyone.
He's
On
a
this.
big man, so it's like, don't confront me because I'm a big man. I'm strong.
It's the power hoarding. Yeah, the fear of open conflict. So he's being a big tough guy. So that's one way of avoiding conflict. Marco, I will take care of the order of things. You don't need to talk over me.
It's like accolades, accolades, accolades. Hey, listen to me.
Yeah.
Right.
But let me
Okay,
just
George.
interject. It's not
Wait.
you who are confused. It's him. He's confused, and he shouldn't confuse you.
Well, and we have to. I mean, yeah, I think there are lots of examples like that, but I do think this is a really good way of realizing that white supremacy culture can really take over any of us, and we have to hold on to our values. We have to start, when we start recognizing this, it's gonna I hope that will help make it easier, but it's you know and we need to, and I'm sure lots of people have called him out on this, but between us that have these connections, we need to keep each other honest and keep each other cognizant of when we're doing it.
We
So
need to invite him to God Talk.
there you go.
I would love to hear what he has to say on God Talk.
Oh my gosh. I'm not sure I'm ready for that.
Okay,
Anybody's welcome. Yeah. But sorry. Okay, George.
Okay, God.
Okay, everybody has said a lot of stuff, and I have a lot of stuff to add to it. One thing I'll say is these people in Texas wear these hats. Let's make Texas great again. Well, who's been running Texas for the last how many years? So are you saying they're not great? Texas needs to be great again? Think about it. During Trump's administration, let's make America great again. That did not happen during his administration? So if you look at that, it's kind of like, okay, so you're trying to make it great again. What I thought you guys had made it great again. Okay, Carol, I came here for a different reason. Can I express that reason?
Yes, you can just remember our principles of
Yeah.
It's okay to disagree, no shaming or blaming, and
Okay.
just
I came here and I know Suzette and I know Krager, and it actually came off a shoot of Krager saying something a couple weeks ago in our noonday class, and I was taken back. So when I hear something, I go direct. I do action, and I try to find out things, even though I'm not supposed to know things. Okay, but somehow I get to know things, and I kind of know somewhat what's going on. And I went back and I watched God Talk last week and the week before because Craig told me to do that. I had Pastor Candace do that too because we happened to be shacked up together because she was here this last weekend.
yay.
So I went there and
Anything that's on God Talk is public.
I was very sad to hear, and this happens, that Jared and Leo didn't feel safe. And to me, that was probably the biggest thing. I mean, they said a bunch of other stuff too, but you didn't feel safe. And that hurts me. That just hurts me a lot. And I've been with this church over 30 years, and believe me, I've had my trials and tribulations, and I'm personally responsible for 3 people not coming to the church anymore and stuff. And that, all that stuff really lays heavy on me. But I can't give up on God. And so when I see Jared, now the first time I seen Jared in his dress, his little fan, I'm going, whoa, that's different. But then, I thought, oh my God, that is so cool. Other young men, other women, other people in the congregation are going to see that happy guy doing and being himself. Isn't that a godly figure? Isn't that God in the working? And I don't know if you know the couple, the blonde couple, he's a real tall guy, and they have 2 kids, and he's been wearing dresses. I don't know if it's he, but he's been wearing dresses now because that's what he feels comfortable in. And I love our congregation because they come and they wear, and look at me, I wear my football uniform. Okay, I wear now, is that church dress? Come on now, is that church dress? No, it isn't, but it's me. And I have been put down for wearing stuff and my Crocs and stuff. But I can be George at this church. So I see this stuff, and I heard in the background, and we've discussed it in ET, Suzette, you know that, about church stuff that have been here for years and years and years. And we need to pass that on. And I got to thinking, did it hurt anybody? Did anybody die? If it offended somebody, then you need to go up to that person and say something. But did it really? And so this is something that people of my age have to look at, okay? They have to look at and say, well, why not? Why not? Now, there is a part in communion where people try to be quiet, but we have tried to do that for ages, and they've tried different things. They've tried to put stuff on the screen. Remember that, Suzette? And, please be quiet. And it's just, it's putting everybody in boxes. So
I threw down on that, just letting you know. Big.
So, but what hurts me more, and I know you guys are hurt, but what hurts me more is not seeing you and not you being able to present your ministry to folks who come in the door. I see you, and I know we have thrown a lot of next gen on. Oh, there's Jared and Leo. Go talk to them. And we had 10 people around you one time, but you guys took the time and talked to them, and you talked to them about God, and they've seen God in you. And so when we don't have you there, the ministry stops.
Correct.
It stops, and it's hurtful. And Caitlin and Charlie, I don't know, they were greeting people in the front. You seen all these happy people around wearing different color of hair. It's just awesomeness. We say we meet you where you're at. Well, we've forgotten a little bit about that. We meet you where you're at. And where you're at is a good, joyous place. And we should love that, embrace it, and take it. And so all I'm saying, guys, is I respect you for what you're doing, but I miss you and your ministry.
Aww.
Thank you, Georgia.
Beautiful.
That's all.
Thank you, George.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Jared and Leo.
Let me. So now there are 2 topics. Okay. 2 things. Okay. Okay. So the first thing was, so whenever Suzette brought the conversation about bedroom talk, right, within MAGA, right, and was like, oh, I don't even want to talk about that. I do, because it's actually it's actually intrinsic, right? Because like these fetishes that we have, right, that are like the trad wife ideal, right, where someone's just cooking and cleaning and pregnant and barefoot, right, as an entire sexual form of expression, right, has morphed into a cult, right? Into a cult of literal conservatism, right? Just like it did in the Children of God religious cult, which was a sex cult for children, right? Like, and it's happened in a lot of ways. Like, there have been so many times when that's happened, but like this idea of like the bedroom is actually really intrinsic to MAGA, right? Because like if you've ever talked to a single person who is all about either republicanism or even fascism, because I have, and I actually used to have friends that were fascists and like deeply the bedroom is really the center of their attention, right? The aesthetic of the military, the aesthetic of, like all the, doctors, lawyers, etc., right? The aesthetic of, men in positions of power, right? Even for women who champion it, even the skinny white woman, right, who usually is blonde, that often is next to dictators and cult leaders, specifically, because like that statistic up, that just so happens to be always searching and trying to clutch at power, right? All of these things, they center around a sexual idea, a kink, actually. And people morph their entire ideology around this kink and mistake it for a worldview when it really just, that would be hot. Whenever they're in their loneliest lonely, they think those thoughts, those lewd thoughts, right? And they let it consume their entire way of being, right? Like, and so like, I think it's really important that whenever we think about how gross it would be, right? We think hard about it, because for some people, they don't realize that their entire political stance is an aesthetic that they're sexually aroused by, right? Point though.
Look how many people of power were on the island. That's all I'm gonna say.
Right. And there are many islands too. That was just one. That was just one island. Epstein wasn't the only salesperson. Like y'all seen Squid Games, and the fact that it was based on another island, right? Where there were a bunch of orphans that were fighting one another. Yeah, and they were told to fight one another in these war games, basically. There are lots of different spaces that just haven't been publicized. But George, right? Thank you for that. I love that. I don't know if I don't want to speak for my babe, but that is very, very heartwarming, and it just brings so much love and connection. Right?
It is, and thank you, George, for being honest, because I appreciate honest people. Like, you have no idea. I have come out more out of my shell, like in these groups, because now I feel like I talk too much. but normally I'm just just quiet, I listen, and just and that's me. But you can my husband knows that I'm extremely honest.
Yes.
And I appreciate honesty.
Absolutely.
And authenticity.
Mm-hmm. 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 And like that's really wonderful that you are all about it. I can't wait until they get an anti-racist sermon series up, because then we will come back. But until then, it's not a safe place for people of color.
Yeah.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing up the what we're looking for the next steps. Now, I'm mindful of the time, and Kreger hasn't spoken yet at all this session, and so let's give him our full attention.
I think Jared just answered my question with his final sentence there, which was, I know you were supposedly having a meeting this week, but was there any satisfaction garnished from that meeting? And because like we've talked about a lot of things on God Talk, and when I heard your story, being here in Austin, 200 and whatever miles away, um, I did what I could to promote your story with the other circles that I travel with this congregation, and I was really hopeful that you know um, your concerns could be effectively addressed.
Yes.
So, but I'm kind of hearing that that's not the case just yet.
We so we literally prepared for this meeting with the board for 3 days, right? We had 3 separate meetings, right?
Well,
Just
and
get-
weeks between, I
Yeah.
think like a week or two between.
I think like a week and a half or so.
Yeah.
And so we literally did some research. We wanted to be very thorough, and everybody that's in that group that we created, everybody brought a little bit of something, right? So we came up with a mission statement. We came up with bullet points of the changes that we want to see in the church. And honestly, the feedback that I heard was that the board was very surprised at how thorough we were, because they expected us just to have like three little things and not have anything, leading
Serious.
results or nothing serious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So, what we're doing is we're waiting for results while still consistently planning on the next steps, because it's not a cake that you bake and then you eat it and then you cured racism, right?
Right, I get that.
I've heard before that y'all had like maybe 2, 5, 20, it doesn't really matter, years ago, like 2 sermons or something that were on racism, and then y'all did it, y'all baked the cake, y'all ended racism. I'm so I'm so proud of you. No, it doesn't work. It's a and maybe some book studies 5 years ago specifically,
No,
right?
they said 12.
Oh,
years.
my, 12 years ago. My bad. I'm so
Yeah.
and y'all baked that cake then too, and it was cured 12 years ago. We did it. No, right? It's a constant thing, and so
It has to be continuum,
and it has to be like consistent, and we have to be sick about talking about racism, and then still talk about racism.
but not sick. Not sick. We have to create a culture to where we can talk about racism
and it's normal
and call it out, and it's normal, right?
Yeah.
I can say, hey, Jared, what you just said, it's it's racist.
Yes.
Like please take a look at what you just said and apologize to whoever you need to apologize.
Right.
Like we need to build that culture where it's just normal to talk about it, right?
And it takes time to do that, and we got time, but
there's no story like yours, like the two of you, your story of what's going on fits exactly into the overall topic of what we started talking about to begin with. You're the specific example of what we're trying to heal, and how we're trying to make a path forward.
Yes.
Yes, thank you for bringing all that forward, and yeah, just think about these principles that we're talking about. I mean, part of it, you're bringing this like know yourself. You're bringing the with your honesty and your with consent, you're helping us to know ourselves, but each of us has to be responsible for knowing ourselves, for working on our physical, emotional, mental, spiritual levels, and staying true to our principles and people. We're really getting close now, but yes, this is all a huge love letter to you guys, and hopefully this will result in some wonderful, lasting change, and we can all contribute to that in our ways. And that includes the people who are watching this later. We all have the opportunity. Yes, hi, future people. we all have an opportunity to be part of a positive change in our world, and that's beautiful. Lynn, you took your hand down. Was that on purpose?
Yeah, because I'm mindful of the time, but the thing I really did want to say, Jared always has these great ideas and remind me of something else. He'll make a comment. I think that for MAGA, their sexual proclivities is what is the main thing about them. Because if you think about women didn't have a right to vote, women should be they're going back now to women should be seen and not heard. They should be barefoot and pregnant as often as possible. Um, um, Native Americans were referred to as savages, you know. And if you think about the big black buck during slavery times, because they were worried the big black buck was gonna, you know, rape and pillage their families and their wives. And so I think they have a thing about, and it's all around, it all stems from their sexual proclivity. That's certainly, I've always thought that's what they have a problem with gay people, is because, you know, they either envy or they have some problem with us having sex, because the only thing that makes us different from them is our sexual orientation. We all go to school. We're all human beings that do the same thing, and yet it's our sex. They always go to our sex, you know. So yeah, I think
Sounds like you and Jared, I think, hit on some of the same points. That's really enlightening. I'd never thought about it that way. All right, Suzette.
Make sure I'm on here. Okay, so I think institutionally, from the standpoint of being a church, there needs to be more discernment around leadership. Okay, who are these people we're voting for to be board members? Until this last year, I didn't even think about any of that stuff, right? I didn't think about who I was voting for. I didn't know them. I didn't know what they were about. I don't know anything. But in the last, I'd say 3 or 4 years, it's become apparent to me that they're a driving force. And so I believe if you're going to be clergy, ministry, a volunteer, whatever, that we go through some kind of sensitivity training as a part of accepting a leadership position. You don't just get to write, I'm a board member, right? I have a position of power. That should have some kind of vetting and discernment in it. Now, I understand it's hard to find people who are going to volunteer to be a board member because it's a big commitment, right? I'd rather have nobody. I'd rather have one board member that gets it than 10 board members who are going to be against everything that we stand for. And I'm telling you, I have learned so much about this church in the last 4 years. It's mind blowing. And I don't want to just say, I'm going to walk away because it's way too much for me. I want to be a part of how do we fix this, and not just how do we fix it, but how do we have some kind of an ongoing solution that makes sure that people have a way to communicate in a meaningful way. And there's still too much. It's still way too messy. It's way too messy right now. We need to figure this stuff out. I wanted to say some Brooklyn curse words, but I'm going to hold back. But we need to figure it out, y'all. And I'm on board, whatever you need me to do. I've gone through the what is the course that Vicky taught? Oh God, I was thinking about it earlier. It was a
Revive. Was it
say-
Revive?
No,
Oh, she
Creating a
creating a
life
life,
that matters.
creating a life that
CLM.
matters.
CLM. There's a lot of
CLM.
CLMs.
So go through the CLM training and then have some kind of sensitivity training. Game changer right there, right there. So, and it's a commitment. Well, if you're going to lead people, you need to make some kind of a commitment that says, You're aligned with our values, our core values. You're aligned with how we treat people as a church. And if you can't do those things, you know, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. Anyway,
That's a
thank
beautiful idea.
you for
Thank
letting
you.
me speak. I'm sorry, I'm always.
No, you were on point.
On
We
point.
appreciate it.
Yeah, that's very wonderful. And just look at all these beautiful ideas and everybody just reflected in you know, I mean, we're all reflections of God. And so that brings us around to our image of God. Just all the love that y'all are bringing. This is beautiful. Beautiful. Just
Thank you for coming, George. It
I'll come
matters.
back. I don't have to read
Excellent.
anything to come to the study.
Shameless pitch. Same. I will be in Houston singing. I'll be at MCC this Sunday singing with Forever Blessed.
Oh
We have
yeah.
2 Black people in our quartet, so I hope you watch us on TV. If nothing else.
Wear something.
And you know I'm gonna wear something colorful, Jared. I just, I've got like a whole closet full.
Yeah.
So I'll
Right.
bring something special.
Okay, I'm gonna try to stay on afterwards if anybody wants to talk off record. And Krager, if you would go ahead and pray us out, and I hope we'll see you all next week.
Holy God, we thank you for another opportunity to gather as your beloved community in this electronic space. Sometimes these spaces seem a little bit safer than being in person, and sometimes not. But we're glad for each person that was here tonight, the words that have been spoken, the honesty, the family, the friendship, the love that we're attempting to create in this space and push out into our broader environments. And this is where it all starts in places like this, right? So we're grateful for the opportunity. And based on what we're hearing tonight, we need to pray for courage. We need to pray for strength. We need to pray for audacity. We need to just pray for the put one foot in front of the other and keep going. And we need to be committed to healing. We need to be committed to lifting things up, getting things in order. It's just a lot. There's just a lot that we need. We need your Holy Spirit in us and through us and with us to make these things come into physical reality. So it's a lot to ask for, but we keep coming back and asking for it every day. Help us to breathe in and breathe out. Help us to breathe in and breathe out. The only time we know that you are with us is when we actually stop to pay attention and think about it. So give us that wherewithal throughout our days. We ask so much, and we ask all of these things in the name of Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Cracker.
Thank
Thank you, guys.